Hi, I'm Wyatt Cash with Scoop News Group, and we're here at CyberTalks with Jerome Becquart, Chief Operating Officer at Axiad. Jerome, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Wyatt.
Let me start with kind of a baseline question, which is, what does it mean to have a baseline level of cybersecurity in 2021 in light of what we've all been through this past year?
Well, I think what we're seeing today is that there is a baseline of best practice or cybersecurity hygiene that really need to be there in every single case. I would start with make sure that your workforce is educated. So security training. I think it's really the baseline because people are one of our weakest link in cybersecurity still. But another key one, and one that is close to my heart, is moving away from password. I think that it's well documented today the issue with password. One is from a safety standpoint, obviously, but also from a pain point for the user. Nobody likes them. They are frequently being hacked. There is, it's easy to reuse them, replace them, or do brute force attack. So really, one of the key things that now is part of the baseline is passwords are not acceptable. You need to move to some kind of multi-factor authentication, and hopefully a multi-factor authentication approach that is good for the end user, that doesn't impact the end user experience. But across the board, let's move away from password. I mean, now it's possible, it's available. A lot of big organizations are doing that. So to me, that's kind of cybersecurity 101, step one.
Next, how did the pandemic affect the way that organizations that you work with proceed about securing their data kind of in this new remote work age that we're now facing?
That's good. Good point. Good question. I think I'll highlight two things. The first one is I think the pandemic really accelerated things. I don't think it dramatically changed things at least from a cybersecurity standpoint or even a work standpoint, but it accelerated some trends that were already there. And the first trend was, we've been moving away from this perimeter defense where you think that, as long as you are within the office, then at least the network can be trusted. So when you get access to network, you don't need to authenticate strongly who you are and things like this. So now that people are working from home, which is not a secure area. They're connecting from different type of machine. A lot of the resources are in the cloud, so are not even controlled by the company. So it's connecting from anywhere, from anything to anything. That's really one of the big changes. And again, that's not something that started with the pandemic, but it really accelerated it by now everybody working from home. So what was in the past maybe an issue or a concern for 10% of your workforce, or maybe 15%, now it was everyone. So that's one thing. And one thing that this reinforced is this approach to what's called zero trust security, which is when you're connecting or trying to connect to an enterprise network, don't assume anything. Yeah, you need to start from, I don't know you, I don't trust you, you need to prove me who you are, you need to authenticate yourself before I give you access to anything. So that's this zero trust approach. Moving away from the perimeter has been one of the key things that has accelerated in 2020 and as well as early 2021. The second thing that we're seeing is that again, it's a trend that was there before, but is accelerated. But the need to this digital transformation that we're all going through, where the fact that a lot of the way we work is now done across the digital world, right? It's less face-to-face, less physical interaction, and more it's about accessing things over a network, doing things, communicating, and so on. So this is a process that's been going on for 20 plus years now, but some of the business processes that are core to the way enterprise operate now also needs to adapt to this new reality. And with the pandemic and the fact that people were working from home, then it created some changes there. I'll highlight a couple of points there. The first one is employee onboarding, right? When you hire somebody new, typically, even if onboarding people remotely was already the case, there have been remote employees for quite some time. Now the scale of this activity is exploded because everybody that was hired between April of last year to maybe April of this year, at least here in California, it has been done remote because the offices were closed. So how do you establish this trust, this process about validating the identity of the person you're onboarding before you can issue the different credentials that the person will need to use to get things done, to log to the machine, log to the CRM, log to whatever application he or she needs to use. So that onboarding, and how do you do that when you can have the person coming to the office showing a driver license, a work permit, a passport, or whatever piece of identity you need to use, right? So being able to leverage this government issued identities, but do it in a remote way, what's called identity proofing or identity verification. This is something that was greatly accelerated by the pandemic, and there was a lot of process being put in place last year, and I think in an emergency mode that we are now seeing, getting more structured and we're taking a step back to do it in a better way. So identity proofing was accelerated for onboarding, and the same way for what we call emergency access or account recovery. So you've got these users, they're at home, they depend on a couple of identity credentials to log into the system, log in the different application. What happens when this credential is not available? Maybe it's on the phone and the phone is broken for some reason, or or the password or the authentication method has been compromised, or the PIN is lost, or so on. How do you help these end users? So again, the processes were in place before for these remote users, but it was a small population. Now everybody is remote. The people that used to go to the IT room or the help desk office in the organization, now they do it remotely. It's more stressful. You're in a different environment. The same thing. How do you do that in a secure yet simple way, right? Because what employees want to do, they want to work. They don't care about the safety aspect. It needs to be transparent and seamless, and it shouldn't be using a password or any kind of fallback security, which doesn't improve the security, actually reduce the security of the system. But so you need security with ease of use.
Well, next, what kinds of changes do you expect to see in the cyber world over the next year or two?
I think more of this, right? I think what happened during the pandemic is there was a lot of band-aid approach, or we tried to fix things because the key things was let's get our office workers operational quickly in this new setting. So there was a little bit of things that were done a little bit, I would say, in a hurry just to get things down. Now, what we're seeing is it needs to be, you need to take a step back and do it the right way, maybe, improve the different system, make it more scalable, and be able to also, from an auditing standpoint, making sure that everything is traceable. The other big thing that we're seeing is, and it's linked to everything I've been talking about so far, is that in order to get this security with the ease of use, there is this whole concept of moving to a passwordless world, right? We want to get away from password, and this passwordless authentication is now something that you can do. A lot of, Microsoft obviously is a big proponent there of passwordless authentication. There is a number of vendors there. So, moving away from password, replacing password with stronger authentication, yet with a great user experience. In some cases, it doesn't even require user intervention. Maybe it's transparent, just based on adaptive authentication. Maybe removing the need for a dedicated device using your phone or using your TPM or Windows Hello for Business, for example. So I think we'll see more of this. But one of the trends that we are starting to see is that there is a lot of buzz and hype around passwordless today, right? That everybody's talking about it. I mean, clearly in our space, the cybersecurity, there's a lot of vendors that promise this passwordless world. I think what we are going to see over the next few months and probably also a couple of years is that after this big hype, big excitement, we're going to realize that, a lot of this solution out there, or lots of the promise that is being made only make you passwordless to a point. You address maybe your Windows login, which Microsoft is doing very well, maybe logging to your cloud-based application, which is fine. But then, you are going to realize that, what about my non-Windows machine? What about some of these legacy applications that a lot of organizations still have? What on-prem application and so on. And also, I've secured my my users with authentication, but what about the machine and things like this? So the trends that are, what I'm expecting to see is the need for more passwordless in depth, right? It's don't stop after just securing authentication to Windows. Look at all your password. If you really want to get passwordless, if you want to achieve this user satisfaction where they don't need to deal with password, which also will make your CISO happy because there is less risk there by removing password, you need to look at it in a holistic way. Where are all these passwords out there that you're using? And this don't stop at 20% or even 50% or 80%. You need to look at the whole ecosystem. Where are you using password? Or you establish trust in the identities of these people and machines that are connecting and transacting on your ecosystem. That's this passwordless in-depth, and also what we call identity-first type of approach, where establishing the identity of the users and the machines that are transacting or interacting over your ecosystem, accessing your assets and resources, is going to be key.
Absolutely. And then lastly, what would you say is the biggest thing that you think most people don't really appreciate or really fully understand about cybersecurity?
I think that cybersecurity now is, as we say, it's a basic requirement. There is, we can't do business, we will not survive as enterprises or even as societies or governments if we don't have good cybersecurity practice. So I think, to me, there's a couple of things there that we need to do to improve the perception that employees or everybody actually out there have about security or cybersecurity. The first one is education, right? It's everybody needs to understand the importance of having good cybersecurity practice, because the danger is there. There are a number of actors out there that are trying to steal your corporate system or hack into the system to then extract some money by doing, some ransomware type of attack. So the threat is real. It's not only, these actors are not only going after, the US Department of Defense and, the top Silicon Valley companies that have great trade secrets. They go after everything. We saw the oil, the pipeline that being attacked recently. We saw meat packing being attacked. So everybody is a target. And the motivation may be different. Some are political, some are just financial, some are for political reason. But at the end of the day, everyone needs to understand the importance of cybersecurity. So education is key. The second one, and this one falls more on the product vendors or solution vendors, is we need to make sure that whatever we do to address the cybersecurity threat doesn't impact the end user. Because we have to remember that at the core, if you're working in a pharmaceutical company or a bank or whatever the work you're doing, what you want to do is do your work. You've been hired to, manage a stock portfolio, and that's what you want to do. You don't want to care about authentication or proving who you are when you do this and that. So cybersecurity, and in our case specifically, identity assurance and authentication needs to be easy. Security and ease of use are not at odds anymore. You can find approach and solution where you achieve great user experience with great level of security. And it's not only, by the way, for the end user, it's also, you need to make sure that the solution is manageable so that the IT team that is in charge of keeping these things working can do it. Because the problem we have is, with the threat landscape moving all the time, there's always new product, new solutions that need to be implemented. And if you're an IT manager, or in charge, or the CISO for that matter, there's too many things to take care of. So it's moving too fast. So simplicity, clarity, and also establishing an approach that is future-proof, where you can adapt to the future need while not adding too much complexity. I think it's our responsibility as cybersecurity solution provider to keep it simple and secure at the same time.
Some great points. Well, Jerome Becquart, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing some of your insights here with our CyberTalks audience.
Well, thanks a lot for your time. Hopefully that was useful.